Let's have a really simple example first at how I do this texture blending to get rid of seams. So here's my relatively complex object that has to be unwrapped and textured in something like substance to get rid of seams. I haven't done that yet. I don't have any seams. So in my previous examples, you can see I was just saying, leave the seams. Are we going to see them anyways? What you can see is some really strange blending from one to another here. Where I had a seam, I've got this blending in some spots. Other spots you just can't see at all. Now, believe it or not, there's actually UV seams right down the center there, but because of the way the texture is, you just don't see it. It just gets, hidden because it's such a random texture. I have some texture stretching up top I could fix and whatnot, but it's not that big a deal. Even this top edge, you can't see an obvious seam going from this inside texture to the outside texture. So just having a look at the textures I've used are these two. So I've painted the tileable um, bark texture. Now this is tiled already at a 2x2, so it's actually only 1/4 the size. And then I have this trim sheet texture, which has got the inside of the log on it and sort of the bottom, for the rings, and then the inside meat. And I'll probably put something else here. I'll paint some other bits of wood stuff that would work well for trees, and I'll be able to blend that in. I was even thinking about a hole in a tree, believe it or not, and being able to blend that in with alphas or something, or again vertex colors and everything, so it could work out quite well. So how did I do this? Well, here's the more simplified. This is just the tree, and again, you can't see anything there. So what have I done? Let's take a really simple gander at a possible solution. I'm going to start with a plane, and let me just go and make that just a dark gray for now. With all my lighting in the scene, it gets blown out, and I'm going to show the edges on it. And we're going to blend from one side to the other. So I'm just going to collapse this down. Let's say it's an editable poly model. Okay. And let's say this is one of those cases where we had to take this set of faces and we had to unwrap those, and we had to take this set of faces and unwrap them, and it caused a seam in the middle. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and drop an unwrap modifier on top, and I have this half here. So I'll go ahead and just do a quick planar map on that. And then let's say it's going to be tiled, so it's going to be in the UV space, completely stuck in the UV space. And then we're going to have the other half, and again, it's going to be stuck in the UV space. But let's just offset this just a little bit so that you can really see it happen. Or you know what, actually the other way to do it would be to tile this differently. So it's going to have different tiling. Now let's go ahead and apply a texture to it. So I'm just going to collapse that down. Never leave your unwrap modifiers in the stack. And I'm going to go in and bring up a texture here. I'm just going to go find one of my texture swatches. Let's see, textures, and let's use that that tiled texture on here. So there it is on there, and maybe I'll rotate those UVs perfectly, actually, and make them sort of go together, but then make sure they don't fit perfectly. So let's go and grab those and just rotate them so they fit each other. So you can now see that there's going to be a seam between them, because this smaller set down here is not going to fit quite the same. It's going to have a different scale to it. I'll make it real obvious. And for that reason, the wire off, you can see that we have a seam between these. So that would represent going from the side down into one of the roots here. And we've got this obvious seam. And it's like, well, how do I get rid of that? Well, what if we can't get rid of it, but we could just kind of cheat hiding it a bit? So I'm going to go grab my materials, and I'm going to go and make a new window so I can work on it here. And I'll go and grab this texture off of this. And so it has this one texture map going into it. And if we check that one texture map, it's using map channel 1. Okay, you can see that that bitmap window is using map channel 1. If we check it with the UV editor, I also unwrap this to map channel 1. And you can see here in the modified panel, map channel 1. So I actually did this unwrap into a UV channel. Okay, so there can be 99 ways to unwrap. You can unwrap any given model 99 different times. There can be 99 UV channels. Okay. Um, so what we're going to do instead is we're going to unwrap this again, but we're not going to unwrap all of it. We're going to unwrap another piece of it, but we're going to do it in an interesting way. So let's just show the tree bark in here. And so there's our tree bark texture. And I'm going to change this to channel 2. And I can just say move or abandon in this case. Move is, it should be copy, not move. I'm going to copy the UVs from 1 to channel 2. So it looks the same now in channel 2. I'm going to take all of these faces here, okay, and I'm going to do another quick planar map in this case, just to unwrap them. I may have to use the peel and peel them flat or whatever. I'm going to go Control I and invert, and I'm going to take the rest of this and just stick it down here somewhere in a gigantic, tiny little corner just to get it out of my way. So now I've got this other UVs here that are going to be showing. So I need to take these, and I'm not displaying them currently. So I'm going to rotate the right way around, and I want to pick up with those faces a chunk of this texture somewhere in the middle. Okay, so maybe there or something, let's say. You know, I can pick it up pretty much anywhere that's going to scale correctly for me. All right, so this one's going to look like this. Let's go back to our material. Let's just change this to show map channel 2 now, so that you can now see what map channel 2 looks like. So you can see that the rest of it that I jammed in the corner looks like hell, and you can see what it looks like now here in the middle. And so I can get that kind of looking about the way I want, you know, somewhere, however, you know, it's up to you. Maybe somewhere in between the two as far as tiling goes or whatever. So it could be even there. We're just going to experiment with it. So I've unwrapped this into sort of, you could think of it as a layer of UVs. Okay. I'm just going to collapse that down again so it's collapsed in, and back to our materials, and we can see that we are showing channel 2. I'm going to go back. There's channel 1 with our seam in it. Okay. And then channel 2 goes over top of our seam. So I'm going to take a copy of this map and just copy it down. The second one I'm going to make channel 2. First one I want to make sure is on channel 1. So I'm going to plug this one and blend them together. We're going to be able to do this in Unreal Engine, and I'll show you how to do it in Unreal Engine in another video. So in here, we're going to do the, we're going to go into Maps, OSL, Math Color, and we're going to use something called Interpolate, okay? And it's going to be called a LERP node in Unreal Engine. We're going to be using those a whole lot. May have already done it. I'm going to take my base map, my map channel 1, go into min. I'm going to take the map channel 2 and go into max. And then you've got this input. And what this does is it gives you colors basically to mix together. So we're going to go in and grab, in this case, under, I think it's UV coordinates, UVW channel. Okay, it's going to be a little more evident maybe why I'm going to do this in a minute. And I'm going to go and pick up a UV channel. Now I can pick up any one of my UV channels, but I'm actually going to go in and grab channel 3 in this case. You're going to see why in a second. Okay, because I'm going to take the output of this and I'm going to pump that into my input. Now, UV channel, you say? I'm going to use this as a mask. So UV channel is just a set of numbers like everything else in the computer. It's just a set of numbers. So it doesn't have to represent UV unwrap. It could represent RG and B as well. So let's see what happens. I'm going to take the output of this and I'm going to plug it into the base color. And probably nothing has changed other than this wackiness here, and I'm not quite sure why it's come up like that and showing it, but it is. We're going to see why in a second. And I'm going to go add a modifier now under mesh editing called Vertex Paint, or you can search for it in Vertex Paint. And I'm just going to close off my material editor while we do this. Show my vertex colors in the viewport. Yeah, I think it was just a display issue or something that was coming up there. And I'm going to fill them with black. And so there's the UV channel being black. So it's all painted black. And I'm going to paint into map channel 3 in this case. We can do vertex colors, but it won't show in Max, but we're going to have to push things down to the vertex colors, I believe, for export over to Unreal. I haven't tested that yet, but well, that'll be in a further video. So we want to now create a mask that's going to mask those two together. So we're going to use the colors of map channel 3, and we're going to mix these two together. Black being min, white being max, or more importantly, 0 and 1. Okay, so now with our colors, I'm going to go and put that into white, and I'm just going to move over to my tablet because I can use weighted brushes easier and weight the brushes. I'm going to show the edge that I'm going to paint on, and I'm going to paint across that edge. So this is white, and then it fades to black. And you can see it's starting to hide it. It's starting to fade out that. And if I just paint a bit more white in there, voila, seam just vanished. So what I have underneath is map channel 1 with a seam in it. And then on top, I've got this strip that I've painted, or I've unwrapped into another channel. And then I'm just blending that seam in, making these vertices white and these ones black. So you get this strip that starts showing up. And it all vanishes. So I've done this in multiple places here. I've taken a strip around this bottom edge in these around here, and I have blended those together. So I've essentially unwrapped these across the texture as well. And I've done it in a couple of sections, like 4 sections around. And I've blended those on. So there are actual seams between those two and whatnot, but just because of the nature of the texture, they kind of get lost in the mix anyways, just as the ones going up and down the side here have been lost. Same thing here, but what I did here is I took the inside ones and I unwrapped sections of these flat onto that trim sheet. But I also took that all the way up around the edge here. So I actually unwrapped all the way from here up and around the top. And then I blended this in to where I needed it to be the same thing using vertex colors. Now I had to use 2 channels of vertex colors to do this. I had to paint in red and green. So if you need to try and do that, that gets a little more complex in the painting, but I can show you how that's done if need be on a case by case basis. But using that method there, you can immediately start to blend and hide seams, and all you're using is tileable textures.